All right, so the meeting should be recording now,
Mhm.
but thank you for meeting with me again. You're really helping me out. Um, I mean, as you know, Cameron. I guess you can go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Candace Miller.
Yep, yep,
Thanks
yep,
for thanks for thinking of me for your interview.
of course, of course. But yeah, just thanks again, and I guess we'll go ahead and get started.
Okay.
So the first question is, when and where were you born?
So I was born in February 1984. I was actually born in Stanton, Virginia, which was the closest hospital to where my family lived at the time. They lived in Highland County, Virginia.
All right, and then where did you grow up?
I grew up in Burnsville, Virginia, which is near the George Washington National Forest in Bath County, Virginia.
And then growing up in Burnsville, what was it like? Like, what do you feel like it was compared to like other counties or other areas in Virginia?
So it's definitely very beautiful, very rural, mountainous. Um, it's not heavily populated, so pretty safe place to live and raise kids. Um, Definitely like an intense sense of community. Most of the people in Birdsville were actually related to me, so it was
Yeah,
like just being with my family, my cousins, my whole childhood. So that was kind of nice.
yeah. And then like growing up in that area during that time period, what were like your favorite things to do outside of the house or in the house?
So we spent most of the day outside, playing with our cousins, hiking, going on adventures, swimming in the rivers and creeks and all that. And then in
Yeah,
the winter, we would, go sledding, and we basically were outside like all day. Mom would not let us just sit in the house. So
yeah. And I mean, do you feel like that's like a good way to be raised? Do you feel like that's like
I think
fun?
so. Yeah, it
Yeah,
was definitely fun. There was a lot of, you know, freedom to like being in the country where, it was the 90s, so it was fairly,
yeah.
much safer than it is now. So it's pretty nice, I guess.
And then I guess expanding on like your family. So where are your parents' families from? Are they from Burnsville?
So my mom's family, they're all from Bath County, Virginia. Many generations were farmers. They had cattle, sheep, stuff like that. My dad's family, they're all from Highland County, Virginia, and part of West Virginia. So they're the Hammers. They were part of the original like West Virginia settlers way, way back in Pendleton County, West Virginia. So it goes way back.
And then growing up, would you like commonly, well, I guess the Highland County
Yeah.
stuff, and that's the same area, but would you ever like go visit West Virginia, or would you ever go to those areas when you were a kid?
Yeah, we would go camping and, do family things in all of those areas. So um, both are, very small.
Yeah. And then when you were growing up, what were the access to schools like in the area? Are you able to
Interesting.
hear me? Oh, and there
I
you
can
go.
hear you now. Sorry.
Oh no, no, you're
I
fine.
think it was your internet or somebody's internet.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm in the basement of the dorm, so it's
Oh,
not
okay.
too great.
Maybe.
Um, I guess I'll re-ask the question, but growing up, like what were the access to schools like and just kind of like getting to town or like getting to the grocery or anything like that, just kind of like the basics.
Yeah. So, I mean, pretty isolated, pretty remote. So, Bath County actually had two elementary schools that were K through 7, and then one high school that was 8 through 12. We did have one small grocery store, but it took like an hour to get to like Walmart, movie theaters, places like that.
Yeah.
Fast food, anything like that was at least an hour drive. So just pretty remote.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely different than like areas where I grew up.
Exactly. But I didn't walk to school in the snow, I promise. I'm just kidding. 5 miles uphill.
Yeah. Uphill both ways.
Yeah, both ways.
And then I guess like kind of going back to your family again, have you ever like
Mhm.
heard any stories kind of like what your parents, what it was like growing up for them out there, for your grandparents, and just kind of, I know you're talking about like the farming generation, the
Yeah.
farming and all that, but like, do they like growing up in the region and growing up in Burnsville?
Yeah, so, like, obviously, I'm closer with my mom's family, we lived
Yeah,
right next to them, so I have more stories related to them. I mean, they were pretty poor people growing up. My mom was one of 6 kids, which, big family, but, um, their resources were very limited. They only ate meat on Sundays, so they relied on the land to grow, like, potatoes and corn
yeah,
and stuff like that, so, um, I don't know, I mean, it was rural Virginia. We didn't have running water till I was in 1st grade, so
yeah.
kinda crazy to think about that even happening, like, in my generation, so pretty remote, pretty isolated.
Uh, did your parents ever like use any like terms for growing up in the region? Like, did they ever like refer to you guys as like Appalachian or mountain people to ever describe themselves, or did they ever like those terms, or did they view those as like derogatory?
So my family, my mom's family, the Robertses, they would refer to themselves as mountain people. They, like, owned it.
Yeah,
Um, they were all very musical people. They played banjo, guitar, mandolin, so they kinda, like, owned the lifestyle of
yeah,
that. I don't remember specifically ever being like, "Oh, we're Appalachian people," but mountain people was definitely something they would refer to themselves as.
yeah. Let's see. I guess would you refer to that term? Like, would you use that to describe yourself now?
I mean, maybe,
Yeah.
I mean, living on the coast for, like
Hold up. I think your audio cut out again. Give me a sec. All right, try again now. See, this is why like Zoom and stuff like that's awful.
yeah, it's just the connection.
There, you're back
There
now.
you go. Okay. Did you catch all of that, or do you need to repeat anything?
I caught the first part of it. It's like about
Okay.
like once you talked about like moving out of the region and just like
Yeah.
all that, but I guess like expanding onto that, like would you have ever like thought about staying in Burnsville, or did you know that like you knew you wanted to get out?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's just not a lot of opportunities there, and,
yeah,
going to college and then moving back there, there's not a lot to do except if you
yeah,
work for, like, the resort and places like that. And my family, they don't really farm now, so there wasn't really like a pull for me to go back there. It's lovely to vacation and get away and no cell service and all those wonderful mountain things, but I kind of like the convenience of being in town, at
yeah,
least a small town. It doesn't have to be huge. So
yeah. And then how do you feel that that upbringing like helped you to be who you are today?
I think, you know, mountain people or whatever, I think they're very hardworking, so I
Yeah,
definitely got a lot of that. They're definitely not lazy people, even though, raising toddlers, I'm very tired right now, but, I feel like I have, like, they have, like, compassion to help people, and I feel like, obviously, that's instilled in me, and, I wanna help, like, especially, like, low income families, single families, people that have struggled their whole lives kinda like we did.
yeah,
But also it made me, like, resourceful, I've, like, can take things and reuse them and repurpose them. Because, like, when you live in the middle of nowhere, you just can't drive somewhere and get things, you just have to kinda make it, so
yeah,
I definitely feel like those things have added to um, my character.
yeah, yeah. No, it's definitely instilled in you.
Yeah.
And then like, do you feel like that's what it means to be Appalachian? Like, do you feel like that work ethic and that sort of like you were talking about with the compassion and the caring, like, do you think those are like common traits seen?
I think so. I mean, every area has their strengths and weaknesses, but I think those are definitely qualities of the people that are there. They live off the land and they're resourceful and they make things work with whatever they have. So definitely those characteristics in the people up there.
Yeah. And then, so how would you define it, like geographically or like as a place? Because like in class they teach us like a little different, like all the boundaries and stuff of the region. And in Virginia, the few counties that they include like as
Yeah,
Appalachia, it's actually where you're from, luckily. And
exactly.
then some of the southwestern
Yeah.
counties.
So, I mean, obviously, it's just that range, the Appalachian Mountains that run like what Canada to Georgia is what I consider to be
Yeah,
that
yeah. All right, let's see. All right, so then what are some strengths or opportunities of Appalachia or Appalachian identity?
Um, obviously, like we talked about, I feel like they're very hardworking and they're very tough as a, community. And there is that really great sense of family and community up there. People, help each other out. They trade things, they bargain, whatever. So there is like a huge connection of the people up there to strengthen that area and that community.
Yeah. What do you think are some challenges that like you saw growing up or like challenges that the region currently faces?
And, that area definitely always gets a, sort of bad reputation, but I
Yeah,
mean, they are isolated. They do have lack a lot of the, modern resources and things like internet and, cell phone. Um, and then, in some of those communities, you have a lot of low education and lack of opportunities for young people. So unless you have like this strong like connection to stay there, a lot of young people leave. So those are
yeah.
definitely some challenges with like, people that go to college and decide to live elsewhere.
Do you think that like with that pattern, do you think the population of the region is going to like decline? Like, do you think more people are going to get out, or do you think that there's going to be any ways that like they can pull people back to the region?
I think people are going back to like living off the land and being, especially like in, these times, COVID and war and all
Yeah,
these things, people want to be like homesteaders. They want to like have their own family farms and live off that kind of isolated. Um, but yeah, and in history or whatever, a lot of those people have a lot of kids. So I feel like the odds are some of them will stay, some might
yeah,
leave. But, in those communities, people tend to have like really large families that
yeah,
kind of, depending on how close they are, they may not migrate off, they might stay. So I think it'll continue to keep the population that we see now.
yeah. And then in class, we've been like talking about some of the committees and like funds that have been like helping the region. And like one of the main ones is the Appalachian Regional Commission. And it's like
Okay.
they're kind of like setting forward like they're basically just like investing in economic future and like trying to like help diversify the Appalachian economy.
Hmm.
Do you think those things will benefit the region, or do you think that like people would be like willing or like wanting that sort of help, or do you think that like people in the region would kind of want to do it on their own or like wouldn't want to take?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Depending where you are, I mean, there are certain communities that I feel would be like open to it because they've
yeah,
watched their towns just kind of, fall victim to like the times and everything. And then I feel like there's some areas that would be like, no, don't come in here, don't
yeah,
help us. We've survived all these, years living off the grid sort of, and we don't want your help.
yeah,
So I could see where some parts of Virginia, it might work well, but then other places like remote Kentucky, West Virginia, where people be like, just get away from us,
yeah,
get out of our land, don't interfere. So
yeah. And I feel like there's kind of some of that with kind of like political affiliation nowadays, and
mhm.
how I mean like of course Trump, when it's like bring jobs back to coal miners,
Right.
And then, but some of the Biden like economic and environmental plans have kind of shifted away from like jobs like that, trying to like kind of like
Exactly.
preventing that. So I guess still kind of
Yeah.
seen today.
Yeah, exactly. It's all who's in power and what kind of resources that are going to come down to those people. So,
Yeah. And then do you have any other questions like about the assignment or anything? Like,
no, I don't think
you
so.
think
It's definitely very interesting that, you have a whole class
yeah.
studying that. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah, and I just want to like make sure that good to record it, good to write about it, good to do all of
Yeah,
that. All right. Well,
definitely. If you think of any other questions, just let me know.
of course. Well, thank you for meeting with me.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, it was
All
definitely good to
right.
talk about.
Yeah.
But all right, I'll let you get off here, but thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Take care.
You too.